Hello and welcome to SquishiVision, where I'm about to give my thoughts on season 2 of Rings of Power, specifically the last episode, Shadows and Flame, but also my thoughts on the entire season and I guess the entire show. I'm a bit confused. I'm not sure. I was under the impression this was a 2 series show. Um, but now I'm seeing, well, from Collider, hopes of a third season, and we do end on a plot hook, so to speak. So I don't actually know if we're expecting a season 3 or not. From working with Wikipedia, nothing has been announced, so I guess it's gonna depend on this season. And apparently, the viewership for season 2 of Rings of Power, despite the fact that literally everything I'm seeing on Collider and Twitter implies that people have much more positive reactions to this season, seems to suggest that it's a lower. Wikipedia seems to think it's a lower viewership, so we're possibly not going to get a season 3. I'm not sure. It would be nice if we did. I think this show has a bit more to tell. I mean, my biggest concern with season 2 is that it really didn't kind of balance its stories. So I bet you could probably fit all of the Gandalf, and confirmed, it is Gandalf, all of the Gandalf plotline into probably one episode. Probably even less than an episode. The dwarves as well, probably 2 episodes. And then you got the Numenorians, and it's there's so much gap between certain plot parts being bounced towards that you kind of, I won't say you lose interest, but you get concerned. So I mean, okay, I was worried about the Gandalf plot wouldn't have enough time to resolve, but it seems like essentially we skip over a whole section. So we leave the hobbits. I think we do the hobbits a massive disservice, I think, in this season, rather the Half-Foots. It's just a shame because the actor who plays Nori is a really, really good actress. I think we do them a disservice. They end the last time we see them committing to fighting for their right to, fighting essentially, holding the ground, not fleeing. And the next time we see them, they're being held captive. So I guess that didn't go very well for them. But then plot twist, either because he is double crossing the bandits, or the bandits double cross him in the first place, and we go, I don't know, it's really confusing. The initial plot twist seems to suggest the Dark Wizard isn't actually dark and legitimately just wanting to find this star, which kind of goes against what we saw earlier in the season when he was being quite, cruel towards his people. And he was like, oh no, that's just all lies. And he goes and he helps save the Half-Foot's life. I mean, he does kill someone to do so, but, I mean, he pushes them away and they fall on a piece of wood and they die. It's not the most, cruelest way of saving a life, considering they had a knife to 2 innocent people. But that's enough for, Gandalf and the Half-Foots to be a bit sus. So they push him for answers, being what's your play here? Which I think is a fair question to ask. And he's being all mysterious and no, we're gonna defeat Sauron and take over. And they're like, well, that seems pretty sus. And then his response basically is to kill a bunch of Half-Foots as a show of power, to be like, if this is how dangerous I am, consider how dangerous Sauron is. Which seems does seem cruel. Does seem bad guy stuff. Does seem more cruel than you would expect Saruman to be, because from my understanding of the lore, Saruman doesn't start off as like this. He's certainly the more harsher wizard, but he's still someone who Gandalf would see as a friend. Certainly not the way that this person's acting, but he is very much Saruman coded, so it's a bit unclear. The resolution of Gandalf's whole dilemma is, it was the most unoriginal test all along. No, it turns out you actually had to choose friendship over power, and that's how you get your staff. And he got his staff, and that's his story resolved. And you wordplay about the name Gandalf came from what the hobbits named him, which was Grand Elf, and they kind of just got shot into Gandalf. I don't think it had to be painted so explicitly towards us at the end when Gandalf was like, so I guess my name's gonna be Gandalf, and he was like, and that's kind of a wink to the audience. I think they got it from Grand Elf. With a pretty badass opening, cold open, where Durin awakens Durin's Bane, and then it's like, okay, well, you can have the ring now, my son. I'm gonna go and 1v1 this Bane, this Durin, and presumably gets killed doing so. But that was shot very well. I do love the frame within a frame shots that we get. The visuals looked fantastic. The lighting looked great. The pacing of that scene was good. The whole like moment of peace before everything kind of went dramatic. The speech that Jiren gave about strength for his father was a really cute, nice touch. I do appreciate that. And then after all that, we don't really see the dwarves again until the end of the episode. So again, the dwarves kind of have this really fascinating, well-acted plot line that we get shoved to the background, almost like random. And it's kind of like the show goes back. So it's like someone's telling a narrative and then keeps remembering there's another part of the story they've forgotten to go back to, so they have to like jump back and forth. But I think I'm nitpicking slightly there. Or maybe I'm not. I think it's the balance of stories is a bit unfortunate, especially if this does end up being the last season of the show. So hopefully, if we do get season 3, we're able to focus more on them. And I think I'm big. I think we've got a lot more to tell of the Dwarven Rings plotline that was kind of very much in the back end, and very much more of the men plotline. I do think we've probably done all the Elven plotlines. Maybe that's how. Maybe this, first season was establishing everyone. Season 2 was Elven focused, and then season 3 is gonna be Dwarven and man focused. And then you've covered all the all the aspects and the kind of rebellion against Sauron. Forgot the name of the character for a second there. So the bulk of this episode. Oh, and then we got some Numenorian stuff. Essentially, Pharazôn rather is in very much a fantasy resembles real life plotline, decides to brand a whole bunch of people as a traitor and get them under arrest, and is now sparking civil strife. So that's pretty unfortunate. Narsil gets given to Elendil, which is a nice kind of foreshadow for what we know is going to happen there. And Elendil is convinced to leave Numenor as people get arrested and rounded up, and it's very, very scary and very, very real. Oops, forgot to mute all of these things. Alexa, volume 0. And finally, one of the Numenorians realizes that Isildur is alive, so we get a nice kind of oh crap moment from Kendon. I need to be better at remembering these names. As he realizes that Isildur's alive, and that's gonna basically probably like impact the political situation in Numenor. So hopefully he doesn't stab him in the back, because that's the kind of thing Kemen would do. But he's still being a pretty like horrible person. Threatening a horse, that's just mean. You don't threaten horses. Horses are lovely. But essentially he colonizes a city. I do like the random kind of friendship that's kind of grown between that wild man Hagen and what's the kid's name? The kid healer. Just like the buddies now, and it's like that's fine. That was just a nice little small touch. But yeah, that was a very kind of the whole like political destabilization of Numenor is really like frustrating in a good way. It's frustrating because it's like, oh, you're just all being stupid men, trying to like build up power and cope with your own poor ego, and it's going to cause so much death, and it's just so like, oh. And then the bulk of the episode was, I think, the regular plot, but even then it was kind of like the epilogue to that. So pretty much nothing really like dramatic happened. It was kind of all as expected. The orcs arrived at Sauron and immediately like, yeah, we're on your side now, Sauron. With very little convincing, but I mean, it works because it's kind of showcasing Sauron's power over the orcs, that it's very easy to radicalize them to his side. I mean, it's been placed in the background for a while. The orcs were getting a bit annoyed by kind of it's kind of tragic. The orcs are getting very much disillusioned by Addo's willingness to throw their lives away because of his fantastic obsession with not letting them become slaves, and they're like, well, this is a bit counterproductive. But then they put all their lot into Sauron's hand, and then Sauron immediately shows how much he doesn't care about their lives when he flat out executes the main boy orc for even like daring to like bring up the risk that's present from them attacking the dwarves. It was pretty cool to see the dwarves just like turn up to a ring gun and start like mowing down orcs with their crossbows. That was kind of fun to watch. The fight between Galadriel and Sauron was fairly well choreographed. I wouldn't say it's the best bit of choreography. I still think my favorite choreography in the show is season 1 when Galadriel basically puts to school all of the Numenoreans, but I did enjoy their kind of duel. I was fascinated by the use of a crown as a weapon. That seems pretty fascinating. Poor Celebrimbor being tortured to death, shot by arrows, and then stabbed against the wall, but getting some really like badass final words out mid Sauron cry. I mean, that's a pretty like impressive thing to do. So kudos to both characters for kind of how they went along with that. So all in all, I definitely think season 2 I enjoyed more than season 1 because I think it felt more like things. Season 1 felt like a very extended cold opening where you weren't entirely sure where like everything was in terms of the grand scheme of things. It was kind of like a extended prologue where here there was more proactive things being brought together. The Rings of Power played more of a role in the episode, so I very much kind of I think I grasped the kind of what was I going with that thought? It built more on the kind of the character relationships between the characters that I was able to kind of be a bit more invested. Not that I didn't enjoy season 1 of Rings of Power. And it's a very well crafted show. Some of the visuals look really good. Some of them look a bit too not that good. But some of the things look fantastic. Some of the acting is just phenomenal. I mean, all of the acting really is phenomenal. I think every character very much brings their A game to this. So those are my thoughts on Rings of Power season 1 and season 2. And I think we do season 3. It feels like this is the second act of a 3-act structure. So it does seem like there should be a part 3 to this. And it is very much a Lord of the Rings thing to have a part 3 to everything. So hopefully Amazon do that, but it's a good show people have just been refusing to engage with, so we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the episode. Let me know what you think. I am gonna bounce because I've got to go to a rally. So see you soon. Free Palestine. Bye bye.